This is a presentation of the Oklahoma Sports Network.
And welcome to Carl Albert High School, home of the 5A state champion, the Carl Albert Titans. And along with Josh Calloway, my name is Eric Sherem. In our third go-around of this is the OSN kickoff of the season and our football preview.
It's the best. I mean, it's the best. What can you say? Every time we do this, I say the same thing, but it's because it's true. It's Christmas morning. It's the best time of year. I love this time. Well, it's a little too hot. The weather's still good. Obviously, everybody's 0-0. Everybody feels good about things, right now. Vibes couldn't be higher across Oklahoma. It gets started for real next week. College gets going in a couple weeks as well. It's the best. I love this time.
And how cool is this that, Carl Albert decided to have this as a scrimmage, and there are 7 teams here, and of the 7, 4 are state champions, including Carl Albert.
Yeah, outrageous field here at Carl Albert. And you can watch the scrimmage on OSN following us, and 7 teams here. And across all classes, obviously, Carl Albert in 5A, Heritage Hall, the 3A champs, 2A champs, Washington here, guys from your neck of the woods that made the way down here from Lawton MacArthur.
Yes.
It's a crazy good field. Lots of D1 players. This is a great event.
And we'll get into that too, all the looks, about, especially for Sooners fans. And if you're joining us on Facebook, thank you. Like us on Facebook. Follow us there, because then you'll know what's next. What are you going to be doing? Like, talked about that scrimmage that's going to be following this. But guess what? Next week, out of the 11 teams, I think 8 or 9 of us are in 0 week, including you cover Newcastle, I cover MacArthur. We actually start on the 24th. That's next Thursday, a week from today. They start for real, and then everybody else will be kicking off on September 1st. But most of our, in fact, I don't know when they're going to stop calling it 0 week.
It's just week one.
It's week one, and then there's a bye week. If you start week one, it's a better way to say the 0 week. But I think some of the traditionalists will probably try to hold on to it. Hey, I want to thank our fine sponsors, The Hangout in Lawton, Oklahoma. They just opened up. They've got the best pizzas in town. They've got burgers, they've got salads, and they've got deep-fried banana pudding. I had to try it because I never had. It is. I never had deep-fried banana pudding. But for those familiar in Lawton, that we're going to have them as our coaches show on Tuesday. And our coaches show, we have actually 3 of them. We have one in Middell that's going to have all 3 Middell schools represented. We'll have one in Lawton where 5 schools will be represented. We'll have all 3 Lawton schools plus Cache and Elgin. We may get some Walters in there. Walters is our newest school of the 11 schools on the Oklahoma Sports Network. But we have a backdrop behind us of the 7 teams that are going at it. But I think, after this introduction, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to break down kind of just what you can expect. We're going to go right down from 6A1 to 6A2 all the way down to 3A. And then we'll kind of break it down with, and I'm going to give you the accolades to this because you did all the homework with it. And even though it's OSN, we're going to say it's really Josh and OSN's top 5 in all the categories. Then we're going to talk about some of the players to watch, and then something new this year, games to watch. Which have you circled on the calendar for any of these matchups? So we're going to do that right after this timeout, live from the Carl Albert High School Stadium, home of the state champion Carl Albert Titans. We'll be back right after this on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
College is more than just going to class. College is a journey. It's meeting new people and making new friendships that will last a lifetime. It's learning from professors who care about you and your success, and finding out it can be really fun and rewarding. It's discovering that thing you want to do for the rest of your life. Cameron University is all about helping you grow and succeed, because your success is our success.
Lawton's newest hangout, 5370 Northwest Cache Road. A family-friendly atmosphere featuring their award-winning pizza and calzone, made fresh daily from their secret family recipe, with handcrafted burgers, wings, appetizers, salad, and homemade desserts, including deep-fried banana pudding. Come hang out with us. The Hangout, 5370 Northwest Cache Road in Lawton.
All right, so welcome back here to Carl Albert. In fact, this is our third I guess it's third annual OSN football preview for the season, and we kind of break down even when their team's not in our network, and we're inviting teams to always join our network. There's 11 on the network. For those who have never downloaded us on these, most people will find us on the app, Apple and Android devices. It's free to download. It's free to watch. And then we're also on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. So without further ado, along with myself, Eric Sherm, it's Josh Calloway. Let's give you the breakdown, and we'll start off with 6A1.
Yeah, 6A1. I mean, the big boys, right? It's the fun, the big schools dominated by Bixby last year. They moved up. When we did the show last year, that was the storyline of 6A1 was Bixby's moving up. How are they going to handle it? Well, they won state again. They didn't lose a game, but they won state again and in dominant fashion. So they're until somebody knocks them off, they're the ones to beat in 6A1. And obviously a question every year in Oklahoma is, can any of the West Side schools break through and knock off the Tulsa schools? Tulsa has dominated 6A1 forever.
Yep.
Forever. So that's always a big question mark every single year in 6A1. So let's go ahead and go through the top five. Why not? Number 5, my only West Side team that I have cracking the top 5 is Westmore. They're kind of my sleeper
And that was my
team.
misspelling, by the way, so don't text it, say we moved for an or. It was not. It was a typo on mine, so I apologize.
Westmore's my sleeper team, and they're my one West Side representative here in 6A1. Really like their team. I like their roster. They brought in a transfer QB, which is becoming more and more the norm in high school football. From Southeast, Michael Graham makes the move over to Westmore. They have a nice, solid, experienced offensive line on that offense as well to go to block for that transfer QB, Michael Graham. Obviously, Michael Patterson-McDonald, I'll talk about him a little more in a minute. He headlines a very deep, talented secondary for that Westmore defense. I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody on the West Side to do it, like we were just saying, but I think if anybody, the Jaguars maybe could be the team that could maybe make some noise from the west side of the state in 6A1. Top 4 is all the east side, as you'd expect. My alma mater, the Owasso Rams, I got them at 4. They were the runners-up last year in 2022. Bill Blankenship has had that program rolling, but they're replacing a lot from last year's team. They do have a solid offensive line. Riker Half, the transfer in there, he's going to be really good. He's probably going to play D1 football in a couple of years. He's just a junior right now. But like I said, replacing a lot from last year's team. They're going to get better as the year goes on. Maybe some growing pains early, but they're still really, really good. That's why I got them at number 4. Number 3 really went back and forth here, 2 and 3 between Jinx and Union. You could really go either way. I lean Union at 3. Really talented at the skill spots. Their offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. They have arguably the best quarterback in 6A1, maybe the best quarterback in Oklahoma, arguably, in Shaker Reisig. Offensive line, though, replacing a lot of guys, going to be inexperienced. What wins out there? The skill positions being really deep or the offensive line having a lot of new faces, we'll find out. Defensively, only 4 starters back on that defense, but Devin Jordan is the big name there. He's going to be playing D1 football here before too long as well for Union. So I have Jinx at 2. Just slightly ahead of Union at 3. Look, the Trojans, they have in their back pocket, Eric, they're the team that beat Bixby last year. They're the one team that can say in, 5-6 years now, that they beat Bixby. They played them in a game and they beat them. So they have that.
Claim to fame.
You can't take that away from them. Now, they didn't capitalize in the postseason, but it's a really good team. They have 6 offensive starters back, 5 defensive starters back. Katie Jones, really talented running back. Jet Calamus on that defense, a really fun linebacker. So I got Jinx number 2 and the biggest threat to Bixby, but clearly, and there's just no argument against it right now, you have to put Bixby number 1. 5 straight state championship. Offensive firepower is going to be a little bit of some different names than last year, but they're still going to churn out guys. They're still that machine. Offensive line should be really good. Defensively, they bring 7 guys back. If you're going to say any weakness, I guess I'd say the secondary, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a weakness. But if you're going to nitpick something, maybe that would be it. They're clearly number 1. There's not really an argument against it. 5 titles in a row, and until somebody knocks them off, they're on top.
And I think that's what it is. They've earned that. They deserve that. And it's almost like when we get to the 5A discussion with Carl Albert, they had 5, then they were off 1 year, and they started right back up. So, you kind of give them the nod right ahead. What about players to watch there in 6A1?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned him. Devin Jordan from Union is a fun one for me. He's a cornerback for the Red Hawks there. Got to get that name changed. Still getting used to that for Union. Per the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, which is what I'm going to be using here for most of these. Number 3 player in Oklahoma as a senior, number 35 corner in the country. He actually just put out his top 5 final schools just the other day. OU, OSU, Alabama, Miami, Texas A&M, TCU all have offers out to him. So obviously a list like that, very talented player. I know the Sooners want him. All those other big schools I just mentioned want him. He's a really fun player. And the other one, Michael Patterson McDonald from Westmore, just committed to Oklahoma on July 31st. Here today. He's a talented player. Number 6 guy in Oklahoma, number 72 safety in the country. Not a real big guy. He's kind of a little shorter than me, which is rare. Maybe he has me by an inch or so. I don't remember. But he's really good. He's a talented player, Oklahoma commit, and so he's going to be a fun one to watch in 6A1 as well.
Okay, and then we're going to wrap this up with the 6A stuff. We've kind of said something new this year. Mm-hmm. Not only do we have the top 5 and players to watch, but what about games to watch? Circling on the calendar, if you had one in 6A1, your top 2, who would they be?
Yeah, I like this ad. It gets me a little more excited for the season. I love looking at the schedule. I got the 2 guys I just mentioned are going toe-to-toe next Thursday, Union and Westmore. I mean, what I just said, Westmore, number 5, they're kind of my sleeper team. You want to make a statement, to start your year, a Thursday night game at home against Union. You go beat Union next Thursday, we have no choice but to take you seriously, essentially. So that's a huge statement opportunity for Westmore right out of the gates. Like I said, Patterson McDonald, Devin Jordan toe-to-toe, that's really fun. A couple of really good players, Oklahoma. So I got that one next Thursday. And then from week 1 to week 10, Bixby and Jinx, the final Friday of the season on November 3rd. That's, as far as regular season games go, that's kind of the game of the year in Oklahoma. That's the revenge factor of last year, Jinx upsetting Bixby, ending their winning streak. That's the last game for the postseason. That's going to be, I imagine all my buddies out there in Tulsa, the Tulsa TV stations, they're all going to be there. That's going to be quite a scene when those 2 teams get together.
All right, 6A1 in the books. We still have 6A2, 5A, all the way down to 3A as our football preview continues by the Hangout in Lawton, Oklahoma. For those in southwest Oklahoma, you may want to check them out. Great pizza. They have got award-winning pizza. It's a homemade dough, homemade sauce. They make daily. And, they've got a plethora of other choices, great burgers, and then that deep-fried banana pudding. If you've never had it, you want to give that a try at the Hangout. Okay, we'll be back with more, including the 6A2 rundown, right after this on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
The thing with car buying nowadays is just how many options there are when it comes to where to actually get a car. Dealerships, websites, auctions, private sellers, and so on. But knowing exactly where to get your car loan makes it all much less stressful. That's where Communication Federal can help. There's a reason we're known for auto loans around here. Lots of car options and lots of places to buy, but only one choice for an auto loan. Communication Federal Credit Union.
All right, we're back here at Carl Albert, site of this, and I really like this. We talked about this in the very beginning. It's like Christmas morning. For those who live for football, I know that sometime, for those who have those countdown clocks for Christmas, there is just many as of my social media friends that have a countdown to football to kick off. I saw the Sooners every year. The marching band has where they're not dressed up, they're in shorts, and they wanted to play it for the very first time to kick off the season, and that hit my TikTok yesterday. And then all of a sudden, once I like that, and they kind of get those algorithms that every marching band that for football was there. And it was like their anthem, and I said, okay, football is here. And so we talked about that. It was 0 week, and most of ours on the Oklahoma Sports Network will be starting next week, including the MacArthur Highlanders, who's here. And for those who are watching on the MAC channel, you're going to be able to see some of that scrimmage today at 6 o'clock when we finish up. But we've already talked about 6A1. Let's go right down the list, and let's get to 6A2 on the list.
Yeah, 6A2, a little more it's an interesting class. Ever since Bixby left it was like this big void, moved on because it just felt like Bixby was going to win it forever until somebody did something drastic. Well, they moved on. It was wide open last year, and here comes Stillwater, capitalizing, won the state championship last year, have a good chance to repeat this year as well. So let's go to the top
even,
five.
Even with a quarterback that's graduated, huh?
A new quarterback.
Okay. All right.
We'll see the top five.
Okay,
We'll see the top five.
gotcha.
Top five. So here's my top five. Similar to Westmore and 6A1, Ponca City is kind of my sleeper wild card team here. I haven't snuck in at 5. I really couldn't figure out who I wanted to put 5th. I felt good about the top 4. The 5 spot, there was a bunch of candidates. I ended up going with Ponca City. It's a program that has not been very good for a long time, but last year was their first playoff win since 2005, and they just feel like they're trending in the right direction. They got some really fun players. Gavin Cunningham is a really talented receiver. Defensively, they got 5 guys back. Their defensive line should be pretty good. Hudson Haas, the name to know there on their defensive line. So I got Ponca City at 5. Like I said, there was like 4 or 5 teams I could have put there, but look at Ponca City a little love at 5. At 4, I got the Antlers. Deer Creek, it's a program that's been producing really good talent the last several years now. Offensively, I have very little doubts. They have 8 guys back. Their quarterback, Grady Amison, had a really nice season last year. He's back this year. Defensively, though, I have a lot of questions because they only have 3 guys back on their defense from last year. Secondary is like all new, basically. So the Antlers, basically, I think the offense is going to be just fine. Defensively, if that skews, in a good way, they should have a very, very good season. If it's a bit of a struggle, they may lose a few more games than they're used to. Number 3, I got Muskogee. I got the Ruffers here. When we did this last year, I talked about Muskogee, this program that's just rising. They got a new stadium, and they cracked my top 5 last year, and it was kind of a big deal. And I got them at 3 this year. I mean, they're just continuing to move forward. They have arguably the best quarterback in 6A2 with Jamarian Ficklin. Their offense has got 8 starters back. Defensively, they got 6 starters back. I like what the Ruffers got cooking. That's a program that's just been taking steps and steps and steps, the last several years, continuing to get better and better and better. So then the top 2. Last year's state championship game, like I said, Stillwater beat Choctaw. This year I got them flip-flop, though, at least to start. I got Stillwater at 2, Choctaw at 1.
Wow.
Like you said, Stillwater, the defending champs, you got to respect that. That's a program they're not going to go anywhere, but they got a new quarterback. There's no Gundy there anymore, so you got to figure out what you're doing at QB now. First time
I think that's
in a
the
while.
last of the Gundys, isn't it?
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I think.
There was
they
3.
have another
they had
one
older
growing. I don't know.
No, I think that's it.
It's been a long line of Gundys.
Yeah.
So no Gundy quarterback this time. They have a really good tight end in Josh Ford. Defensively, they have 5 starters back, so they got a lot of holes to replace from last year's team, but they're still a really, really good program, as consistent as there is.
And this is a
6A2.
rematch of the state title game too.
Yes.
So I mean, and it was kind of tight fitting, and I'm sure that both teams say, hey, if you're going to tell us that we're both going to be in it in the end, and then we'll just kind of shake it out to see who's the winner.
And then with Choctaw at number 1. Runner-up last year, 6 starters back offensively, but what's going to make them go is their defense. Eric, you don't see this very often. Their entire defense is back.
Wow.
From last year. They didn't have a single senior that started on last year's defense, and it's headlined by defensive end Will Smith. He is a really good high school football player. We're going to talk about him more in just a second. He was an OSU commit for a little while. Their defense, I mean, you bring all 11 back on a defense that was good, that's going to be the strength of the team. So I got Choctaw by a hair. Stillwater. If you want it the other way, I wouldn't fight you too hard on it, but I think Choctaw's a little better position this year.
All right, so we're continuing their football preview in the 6A2 rundown, and then also we want to thank Hangout for our sponsorship for this rundown, and you can hear the cheers, and every time there's a big hit, I want to turn around and see what's happened because we're not facing the action. It's behind us. Okay, players to watch there in 6A2.
Yeah, I mentioned him briefly. Will Smith with Choctaw, number 11 player in Oklahoma in 2024, number 66 edge in the country. Like I said, he actually was committed to Oklahoma State, decommitted back in the spring, so he's uncommitted right now, but does have lots of offers of note. So keep an eye on him. He's a really, really talented high school football player, and what should be a really good defense for the Yellow Jackets there.
Well, so you have one from the runner-up last year and who you predict to win the state, and now let's go to the ones that were state champions.
Yeah, I mentioned him, Josh Ford.
Yeah.
Kind of an underrated player. Number 13 in Oklahoma, number 68 tight end of the country. He is an OSU commit, as a lot of the best players in Stillwater tend to be. You're not going to let guys get out of your own town there with the Cowboys. And Mike Gundy, really good target. Obviously, that offense, like I said, is replacing a lot. New quarterback. He's going to be somebody you can lean on. Look for him in the red zone and any kind of key down at all. I imagine Stillwater's going to be eyeballing Josh Ford. So he's a fun one to watch.
Okay, so as we are doing in each one of the classes, we do the top 5. We also do players to watch that you can kind of keep an eye on throughout the season, and then the top games. So what are the top two in your category for Class 6A2 for this year?
Yeah, these ones aren't hard to sell or hard to see the rationale behind. October 6th, Choctaw plays at Deer Creek. So that's the teams I have 1 and 4. Deer Creek, like I said, I raised a few questions about their defense. If they go beat Choctaw on October 6th, I'm in. As far as the Antlers being a legit contender, that's a big, big game on October 6th. And then to close out the regular season on November 3rd, Muskogee and Stillwater, that's teams I have 3 and 2. So that's going to be a really fun game, obviously, for obvious reasons. The Ruffers and the Pioneers, we should have a really good idea about the hierarchy of, the top end of 6A2 by the time we get there. Some of these other classes we're going to get to, it's kind of unfortunate that some of these top teams don't really play in the regular season.
Yeah.
Not the case, obviously, in 6A2. A couple of really big-time games there.
Yeah, in fact, a little tease, we're going to talk about that in 5A because we're going to talk about 2 teams that could be slated to try to go for a state finals that is basically not playing each other and their district foes. Yeah. That's right. They're that close. And that's that little preview of the Carl Albert Dell City. And we've got that. We've also got a great little rundown from Case and Troutman that did our little review for our football review, which you're going to see some of the comments from Dell City, Midwest City, and Carl Albert leading into the 5A rundown, and that is what's coming up next. So we'll continue as our football preview by the Hangout in Lawton, Oklahoma is bringing you this proud sponsorship right here at Carl Albert with 7 teams. 4 of them state champions are here to kick off this scrimmage. I couldn't find a better place in the state of Oklahoma than do our football preview than right here. We'll be back right after this on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
And now headed into the season, today's the first day of pads. Got to be excited about that. I mean, every football coach, it doesn't become real until you put the pads on. And today's that, and we've had some good work going on, and we're going to continue that process. Going into the season, we're excited. We won our district last year, but that wasn't good enough because we had a bad taste left in our mouth. So our job is not to let that happen again and to try to repeat as district champs. But we'll take it one game at a time and start out week 1 with Carl Albert.
It's been going great. First day in pads. It's a little change in tempo because we in pads and the heat, but it's our weather. Don't matter what weather we in, we're going to play in it. So I say the 300 running backs, they carry a lot of energy with themselves. It's just the atmosphere being around them. It's always fun. They all want to eat. They all want the ball. They always hungry to score touchdowns, get some yards, and just contribute to the team in the game. Our movement, our kicker, David, he's doing great. He clicked with us when he first came. He's a real cool guy, and we expect him to do a lot, and we can go to him in a pinch when we need a field goal or something like that when we're kind of far. But yeah, he's going to be a big part this year.
Lawton's newest hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road. A family-friendly atmosphere featuring their award-winning pizza and calzone, made fresh daily from their secret family recipe. With handcrafted burgers, wings, appetizers, salad, and homemade desserts, including deep-fried banana pudding. Come hang out with us. The Hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road in Lawton.
Yes, indeed. It's football time in Oklahoma, and we're proud to bring it to you right here on the Oklahoma Sports Network, starting our 8th season. And if you are unfamiliar and just kind of finding out about us, thank you for watching us on Facebook Live. We're also on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Facebook, like us there, follow us there. Twitter, or now X. If you're on X and Twitter, you can find us there. You can find us on Instagram, on TikTok, with 1.1 million views of this past year on our TikTok. Very proud with about 9,000 followers that we've just kind of got into TikTok and got that up and rolling. And then we're on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Josh Calloway in our 3rd rundown of our OSN football preview, and you get a little bit more special with us because primarily we live with a lot of 5A schools. We have 5A and 4A schools represented, but this is really the category and why we have 2 of our teams here, Carl Albert and MacArthur. So let's give you the rundown in the top of your picks of the top 5 in Class 5A.
Yeah, 5A is a fun class, always is. Obviously, we know who's going to be up top here with Carl Albert this year. We're at their scrimmage, and they're the talk of the town right now as far as one of the most talented teams in Oklahoma, period. The way the roster they've put together, we'll get more into them in just a second, but the storyline of 5A is, can anybody beat Carl Albert? That's the storyline right now coming in.
Well, and the thing is, for me, is, I mean, they get Xavier Robinson back, okay, who broke the Carl Albert rushing record in the school history.
Yeah.
And then that was just good enough. And then over the summer, and I blew up your phone because you're very tied to the Sooners, all of a sudden, and I called Kirk Norman, who calls our Carl Albert, and he said, boy, he knew exactly when he picked up, he just started laughing because he knew why I was calling. And what was that call? Oh, there was a transfer. That's an OU quarterback commit from Texas coming to Carl Albert when we thought that the Carl Albert starting quarterback was going to be the pitcher, and he still could be. I don't know, but the quarterback race yet. That has got a great arm and is going to OSU.
Yeah, no, you bring Kevin Sperry in from Rock Hill, Texas, and I mean it's the risky richer, like we were joking before it came on. I mean, it's a roster that doesn't have a lot of holes, so we'll start at the bottom though. We'll start at the bottom.
Yeah,
Elgin
I was very surprised. Very nice, Elgin.
Elgin,
yes.
number 5. Obviously, that's an OSN school. The Owls. I mean, they were the surprise team in Oklahoma last year. I mean, they were a 4A program that was kind of middling. Not really making the playoffs that often. They move up to 5A. I think everybody's kind of wondering, how's that going to go? You're struggling at 4A, you move up to 5A. Magical season, make the playoffs, win a playoff game. Chalmer Wyatt, our OSN Coach of the Year at the banquet back in February. Well-deserved, unbelievable turnaround for that Elgin team. And here's the thing,
and just barely didn't win the district championship. They were ahead. Midwest City had to come back with their 4-year starting quarterback that just threw a great pass in the last final seconds of the game for Midwest City to take that district. So they could have won the district last year.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They did that, this magical season. You think, oh, maybe the stars aligned, they had a bunch of seniors, whatever. No, it was a young team. They have 17 starters back.
All coming
from
back.
Last year's team. 8 on offense, 9 on defense. Quarterback Tress Laura, the headliner there for the Owls. So, I mean, I'm in on Elgin as far as continuing the momentum. Why wouldn't you be? You have a season like they had, you bring back 17 starters.
Yes.
That's a big number, and a lot of reasons to be excited for the Elgin crew on OSN.
Oh, yeah.
Owl fans be tuning in all year right here.
Yeah, Glenn Brockenbush, coming from the newspaper realm, is going to be taking that helm along with Vincent Saylor and carrying the Elgin Owls for this year.
Yeah, what a group. Number 4, got Collinsville, the Cardinals, over there in Tulsa. Interesting team. They got 10 starters back, 5 on each side. They have a good offensive line, good secondary. It's an interesting team. I feel like the ceiling is very high for the Cardinals. The 4, though, could be a little lowish. Like they're kind of volatile. The Cardinals are this year. I really like wide receiver Hudson Henslick. He plays defense as well. He's a name to watch, also a fun name to say. He's going to be a guy to watch for the Cardinals this year. They could be really, really good. Top end of 5A outside of Carl Albert, or they could slip out of the top 5 pretty easily. They're an interesting team, a fun one to watch, a bit of an X factor, I think, in 5A. Number 3, I got McAllister, the runner-up last year, the Buffaloes. Obviously fell to Carl Albert in the championship game a year ago. They bring back 6 offensive starters, including quarterback Caden Lesnow, who is right up there with Kevin Sperry as far as the best quarterbacks in 5A. Defensively, they bring back 8 guys. Malachi Rice, the headliner there, defensive end. But, replacing some other key pieces. Obviously, Eric McCarty is no longer around. He's in Norman with the Sooners now. So there's some questions there. They got a really good team, though. They're not going anywhere. Forrest Mazey's a really good coach, really good program. So McAllister's not going anywhere. That's why I got them at 3, despite some key players moving on from last year's team. Top 2, though, I have them right here in the Mid-Del area, both OSN. Del City at number 2. In most years, it's the Del City team that would probably be the favorite. They got a really, really good roster. They brought in River Warren, a Bishop McGinnis transfer quarterback to run the show.
2-year starter, over there. So he's bringing 2 years of experience at McGinnis to come over to Del City, who just, and that they lost both of their games by a team in overtime going for 2 with Coweta and McAllister. And, both of them, they're going to have to go on the road to do that, though, because they had both of those games at their house. They'll have to go there and prove their worth on the east side to do it. But the way you've got it set up, that could be a state title between these two.
I'd love to see it. So, yeah, Del City, like I said, this is a roster that most years would probably be worthy of number one. River Warren, Rodney Fields leads what's going to be a really good rushing attack for the Eagles. He's an OSU commit. Rodney Fields is. Defensively, Aaron Carter is a stud linebacker. You have Braylon Adama. He's a defensive back that's a lot of fun to watch. Eagles are going to be good. They're going to be really, really good.
Well, and then they get the two kids from Southeast that are cousins that came in, and they were phenoms as freshmen. And I said, wow, these are special kids to watch. And even though they were on a team that was struggling, they never gave up. And then all of a sudden they moved over. And so, yeah, that's just the move-ins for both these schools to clash. And they're city rivals as well. It's going to be an interesting tale in 5A.
Oh, yeah. And then Carl Albert's number one. Rightfully so. I mean, there's not any argument, frankly, against them not being number one. Like we said, Kevin Sperry comes in, OU commit, just a junior, by the way, too. So he's got 2 years with the Titans. Xavier Robinson, you talked about, he's an OU commit, and he's a big enough kid to play defensive end, and he's just going to run you over. Defensively, Marcus James, really talented linebacker. Tristan Haynes has got offers from almost everywhere, Alabama, OU, whatever else in that secondary. They're loaded. The Titans, I mean, you hate to put this on high school kids, but anything short of a title this year for the Titans would be massively disappointing. They are a huge favorite in 5A this year.
Okay, and players to watch?
Yeah, Xavier Robinson for Carl Albert, which touched on him a second ago. Like I said, OU commit, number 5 player in Oklahoma in that 24 class, number 47 running back. If you've never seen him, I don't even mean see him play, just seen him physically as imposing of a running back as you will ever see. The kid is huge. He could easily be a linebacker, defensive end, or something like that.
I think a lot of people say, well, he's huge, so he's slow. But then when you see the film and you see corners and safeties that are having to chase him down on an angle, then you know his speed. So he's not slow. And with OU wanting to make that commit, then you know he's not a slow running back. And he will run you over. He's very physical. He's different to describe. He's not really shifty. He's kind of like a bulldozer on steroids. I mean, he just basically will run you down.
He's going to be fun to watch, and him with Sperry, that's a rush pass combo that's outrageous. And defensively, they got lots of talent too. Elsewhere, though, a guy from a team we didn't talk about, Zadavian Sims with Durant. Zadavian Sims, I don't know how good Durant's going to be, quite frankly, this year. But Zadavian Sims is as good of a player as there is in Oklahoma. Number 2 player in Oklahoma, number 29 defensive lineman in the country. He's a commit of Oregon. OU was heavily in on him, didn't get him. He went to Oregon, went to Eugene. Really good player. So if you happen to cross paths with Durant this season, whether your school's playing him or you just whatever, you catch a stream with Durant on it or whatever, it's worth your time because Zadavian Sims, a really talented player, leaving the state to go to Oregon. He's going to be a fun one to watch over there, Durant.
And as we've done with our football preview, we take our top 5. We talk about players to watch, but what about games to watch? Boy, I mean, where do you start with your picks on these?
Yeah, I really wish Carl Albert and Del City were playing.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Hopefully we get it in the postseason. I was on the call for basketball when they played in the basketball championship game, and it was awesome. I'd love to see that in football as well. But I do have both teams featured here. Carl Albert hosts Coweta next Friday. Season opener. This is kind of a two-parter. Coweta is a good team. They just missed the top 5. If I did a top 10, they'd probably like 6 or 7. They're a good team. But more than anything, it's just the intrigue factor to see Carl Albert for the first time. Home opener. It's going to be a massive crowd out here, I got to assume. Just the first chance to really see in a real game atmosphere. Also, you had the scrimmage today. But a real-life game of Sperry and Robinson, all these guys just – Who wouldn't want to watch that? The intrigue is very – and Coweta's good. Not to sleep on at all. So that's going to be a fun game. The other one, Del City and McAllister. That's the teams I have 2 and 3, obviously. So obvious intrigue there. If the Buffaloes beat Del City – and teams get better as they go. It's high school football. The game's September. But if McAllister beats Del City on the 29th, I'm officially kind of like, okay, maybe the Buffaloes actually are the biggest contender in 5A. The winner of that game is going to cement himself as the clear biggest contender to Carl Albert, I think, once the postseason rolls around. So that's a really fun game. Also – on OSN whenever we get there.
All right, and that's a rematch of last year where McAllister had to come in, and Del City had to kick a field goal to tie it. They sent it in overtime, and then both teams, both Coweta and McAllister against Del City, decided to go for 2 on the road, and that's what a lot of coaches say. If you're in overtime and you're on the road, you tend to kind of gamble it and try to go for it, and both Coweta and McAllister on the winning edge on that side. So that's a really good rundown and a good fun run. So we'll talk, since we're talking Del City, we'll go with the Del City. This is our hangout, and that's our sponsor for this rendition of our 3rd OSN preview, football preview, and we'll be back right after Del City here on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
I'm excited to see where Dale City's at. I'm excited to see us continue to grow. I'm excited to see what this year takes us. I'm excited about some of the guys that we have got in, that came in and moved in. They have really meshed well with the rest of our players that we had here previously. And they're doing a good job on just buying into the standard that we have and buying into the character traits that we're trying to implement into their lifestyle. So I'm excited to see those guys mesh.
Character development. I mean, Coach wants us to be straight on. Really, that's the character development. We go by CDEP mentality, commitment, discipline, effort, pride, and toughness.
As a team, win each game. Take each game one by one and try to get to the championship, get a ring.
Take each game one by one and fight through adversity.
Lawton's newest hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road. A family-friendly atmosphere featuring their award-winning pizza and calzone, made fresh daily from their secret family recipe, with handcrafted burgers, wings, appetizers, salad, and homemade desserts, including deep-fried banana pudding. Come hang out with us. The Hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road in Lawton.
Really feel good and feel like our kids put themselves in a spot to be successful this year, and that's really all you can ask for. Expectations are always going to be here. We expect to win a state championship. It doesn't matter how talented we are. It doesn't matter which guy we have or guys we don't have. It doesn't matter. We strive to win a state championship every year. We don't talk about going undefeated. We don't talk about district championships. We talk about the next game. At the end, we want to be the last team standing, and I think when you focus on it, one game at a time, I think it makes that something that's manageable, something that's doable.
Goals for myself this season are 100 pancakes. We take pride in that on the O-line, so and just getting better every day and every week and not overlooking anybody. And as a team, I mean, it's the same every year. We're coming out here to win a state championship.
My goals is, rush for over 3,000 yards, about 40-plus touchdowns this year, so.
Senior leadership to me means a lot. I mean, means coming out here working every day, and you got to lead with your words, but also by example. You can't say something and not do it. And when guys aren't paying attention, you got to check them, make sure they're locked in. And everybody from the starters to the guys 5 people down the depth chart should be paying attention the same way every day.
If I could say one thing to the younger kids, is pay attention to the small details that your position coach gives you. That's one thing, that helped me out throughout my entire high school year. So that's one big thing, that will really help you with small details, especially, when it comes to technique. You may not have the size or anything, but technique could also help you with a lot of things if someone's maybe stronger than you, or maybe faster than you.
Well, our football preview continues along with Josh Calloway. My name is Eric Sher. I'm glad to have you along for our third rundown of this, and this has been fun. Josh, you do all the hard work because you do all the investigative reporting as far as what we do. And we want to thank the Hangout. They are our special sponsor. They did our media day. That was the first time we ever did 2 media days. You can catch that on archive if you didn't. A rundown of all of our schools. We had the one in Lawton featuring all of the Southwest Oklahoma, and then with Newcastle and all of Middell, we did that, and then we sprung right into this back-to-back. And so the Hangout has been sponsors of both a brand new pizza burger place in Lawton. So if you're in Southwest Oklahoma, you want to check out the Hangout there on Cash Road. Thank you for their great sponsorship. And now let's roll on down the road as we get into 4A.
Yeah, 4A is a fun class. It's I think 4A, and it's kind of become this way the last several years, basketball too, when we get to the basketball postseason, deep class. Not a lot of real top-heavy, obvious favorites in 4A like some of the other classes are. There's favorites, don't get me wrong, but it's deeper. There's more teams that you could conceivably see win a title, I think, in 4A maybe than any other class. So here we go. In 4A, top 5, I'm starting with Tuttle. A little bit of a legacy pick of the Tigers. There's some question marks here for Tuttle, but I still have them in the top 5. Offensively especially, their wide receivers and their running backs, I'm not that worried about. But you have a new quarterback out there for the Tigers. Offensive line's replacing some guys. So Tuttle's got some questions, but they're Tuttle. They're a program that's just going to continue to churn out talent. That's why I keep them in the top 5. Defensively, they should still be pretty darn good, though. Joe Wright, as a linebacker, is really fun, and a defensive back by the name of Major Sharp, which is a great name.
Yes.
He's going to be a fun one
It's
to
a
watch
football
as
name.
well. That's a football name.
Yeah.
And so overall, Tuttle, maybe not as strong as usual, but they're still the Tuttle Tigers. They're still going to be tough to beat. They're still going to win probably 7, 8, 9 games and be a force when the postseason rolls around. So I got them at 5. At 4, the Blanchard Lions. In that Tri-City, those two teams obviously right down the road from each other. Blanchard offensively should be really good. They got 8 starters back, including their quarterback, Carson Cooksey. Their offensive line is going to be really, really strong. And, as everybody knows, when your offense has got an offensive line up front that can give the QB time and running lanes, it just makes it all work. So offensively, I think Blanchard's going to be really, really good. Defensively, there's good players at each level of the defense. There's not really any one area that's I would really call a strength, but they certainly don't have an area that I would call a weakness either on their defense. So Blanchard's got a solid team. The Lions are going to be a fun one to keep an eye on, I think, this season. Number 3, I got Weatherford. The Eagles, I was tempted to put them even higher. I really like Weatherford as kind of not enough people are talking about them type of a team, quite frankly, in 4A. They got 7 starters back on offense. C.J. Nixon, the guy who plays both ways, is a stud. We're going to talk about him more in just a minute. Their wide receiver core in general is really, really good. But like Choctaw, remember I mentioned with Choctaw earlier, their entire defense is back, just like Choctaw. All 11 starters are back. There is no weakness on that defense, at least on paper. You look at them, I was trying to see, is there any one position that there's not a lot of guys who are, considered to be at the top end in their class? No. Weatherford has got no holes on their defense, again, on paper, as it sits here in mid-August. But I really like Weatherford. They're going to be a fun team to keep an eye on, and we have them on the network next week. Talk about that a little more in just a little bit as well. The top 2, I got the Poto Pirates at number 2, the 2019 champs in 4A. They have got a ton of talent back from what was a good team last year. 19 starters back from last year's team. 10 of those are on offense, including Dax Collins, who is an electric running back. If you've ever seen him play, he's a lot of fun. Lots of D1 offers. Isn't committed anywhere, but he can really, really go. And that's going to be a potent offense. They're going to put up points, are the Pirates. And defensively, they got 9 guys back, especially their linebackers are really, really solid. So Poto, not really a whole lot of weaknesses on paper for them either. And you bring 19 guys back, I'm going to expect a lot, quite frankly, with a program like that. But number 1, sticking with Wagner.
They were doubted last year.
They're the defending champs. They beat Cushing last year. Their defense is just absurd. Every year, Wagner defensively just blows you away. Last year, they allowed 8.4 points per game, 6 shutouts for Wagner last year. And they bring back 8 starters from that defense.
Well, in the experience that they came, I was at that game, and Cushing jumped out on them, and I said, oh, okay, this is, this may be a route. The route's on. Cushing just really excited that they're going to take this advantage. And, there's a rival between those two. And then slowly but surely the game kind of drug on. Wagner stayed around, and then all of a sudden it switched. And when it switched, Cushing couldn't do anything about it. It was just, and they've got that storied tradition. It goes back to the Bixbys, the Carl Alberts. Their tradition is winning. They understand that, and I don't know what class. It doesn't matter if they know it or not. They just bring in that kind of confidence.
Yeah, and they won it in 2020 as well. Also with stingy defense. More of the same. They can really play defense out there. And Wagner, their offense is going to be bad either. They got a talented quarterback, Cale Charbonneau, got 6 starters back on offense from last year's team as well. So Wagner, they're no. You win a state title, you bring back 14 starters. You have top end talent. Whit Edwards, a guy we're going to talk about more in just a second. I got to go Wagner number 1, at least for now. They don't have a lot of weaknesses.
That's your story, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah, I hate to just go defending champ, but
I understand that. We've done it with Bixby, we did it with Carl Albert, we did it until you beat him. You're not going to switch that. So players to watch here in 4A.
Yeah, I mentioned him briefly there. C.J. Nixon with Weatherford. He's a guy who plays both ways. Number 1 player in Oklahoma in 2025.
Wow.
He's a junior for the Eagles. Number 11 edge player in the country. Is not currently committed, but he's got some big boy offers. OU, Auburn, Notre Dame, OSU, TCU, Tennessee, among others. He has more. I think Wisconsin maybe is in there.
Why do you think there's a delay on him?
Well, he's only 2025.
Yeah, I
understand.
So why do it? Yeah, that's right.
He's taking his time. A lot of guys don't commit till they're seniors. So,
sure, I understand.
So he's really good. He's a very good basketball player, too. So he can really play, C.J. Nixon. I'm excited to see him in person next Friday. So he's a really fun one to watch. Elsewhere, Whit Edwards, I mentioned him real briefly there with Wagner. Number 4 player in Oklahoma in the 24 class. He's just characterized as an athlete right now. He's kind of positionless. I think he's going to probably play defensive back or something at the next level, but he could play. He's kind of a big kid. He could kind of go anywhere. Number 37 athlete in the country. He's not currently committed either, but he's got some offers that are notable. Houston, Iowa State, Vanderbilt, among others, in on Mr. Whit Edwards. So he's going to be a fun one to watch on that Wagner defense that I just praised a lot just a second ago.
Okay, we've got 12 minutes away until we start our scrimmage, and I know for Carl Albert fans and MacArthur fans, we're going to have that both on the MacArthur and Carl Albert channel. I know that we have other scrimmages going on. Midwest City is going to be in action. Del City is in action. Well, almost everybody is going to have to scrimmage, and especially for the teams in 0 week, which we said like 8 of our schools are going to be 0 week. They only get 1 scrimmage. They do get a bye week, which kind of gives you a little bit of something in return for that, but they only get 1 scrimmage, and for some of them, this is it. For Carl Albert, who plays 0 week, and then also MacArthur plays 0 week. This is it. This is their 1 scrimmage that they can really get things going, because next week it's non-district play, but we're starting next week.
Got a 0 week game and the games to watch for 4A as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Our games, I forgot I was just going to jump right over there.
Well, let's segue right into it, because we got a good 0 week game, and this is where I'm going to get my Newcastle Racers in.
Okay.
Next Friday, season opener for Newcastle. Weatherford's going to be there. The Racers are a program that's continued to build and build and build. They're probably, kind of like I said earlier, if I did a top 10, Newcastle would be in it. They got a really good team this year. Jackson Burt back, quarterback and everything.
Yeah, three-year starter.
Weatherford in there next Friday for a season opener. I mean, what a chance for Newcastle to make a big statement to start the year. That game's going to be on OSN. Yours truly will be on the call for it, and really looking forward to it. That's going to be a really fun game. I'm excited for that one next Friday. And then the Tri-City matchups are always fun. Anytime Tuttle, Blanchard, Newcastle, any combination of those 3 play, it's always fun, always big crowd. The communities out there love those games. That Tuttle Blanchard game is going to be a lot of fun. Always is. It's kind of an easy answer, but on October 6th, the Tigers and the Lions will get together. That'll be a fun one.
Okay, so as the hangout from Lawton, Oklahoma, southwest Oklahoma, just make sure you stop by. Great pizza, homemade pizza from scratch. It's award-winning pizza, family recipe. They make their dough daily. They make their own sauce. You aren't going to be disappointed. It's the best in town. I guess we can almost say it's the official pizza of southwest Oklahoma and the Oklahoma Sports Network.
Sure.
So we appreciate their sponsorship. Okay, we'll be back to wrap things up with 3A. And that's coming up right next here on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
Lawton's newest hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road. A family-friendly atmosphere featuring their award-winning pizza and calzone, made fresh daily from their secret family recipe, with handcrafted burgers, wings, appetizers, salad, and homemade desserts, including deep-fried banana pudding. Come hang out with us. The Hangout, 5370 Northwest Cash Road in Lawton.
College is more than just going to class. College is a journey. It's meeting new people and making new...
All right, back here at Carl Albert, site of this 7-team scrimmage, 4 state champions, and they're going to get ready to go at 6 o'clock, and we're going to have some of that live streamed on our Carl Albert and MacArthur channels. For those who've downloaded the app, thank you. Apple and Android devices, just search Oklahoma Sports Network. It's free to watch, free to download. We're also on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Like us on Facebook. Like us on what was formerly Twitter, on X. Follow us there on Instagram. I got to get used to saying that. And TikTok. We're pretty much everywhere. Wherever you are, we're there too.
This scrimmage, by the way,
yes,
it's mayhem.
Every time there's a cheer, you're going, oh, I know.
There's so many
There's
teams.
so much going on.
They got JV going right now. That's why there's action. And it's going to be the varsity guys get out here. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, so let's give her a rundown into the 3A category.
Yeah, 3A is hard. This was the tough of the classes that we're doing on the show here that I give these rankings for. 3A, I had the hardest time. It's kind of wide open. It's a little top heavy, but a little wide open. So we'll go ahead and get into it. The bottom of 3A here, I'm going with Cassia Hall as my number 5 team over there in Tulsa. They're going to be weird because they've always been very run heavy, but I read that they're shifting to more of a pass first offense, which is going to be kind of interesting. What's tough about that, though, and I still have number 5, so it's not like I'm sleeping on that hard, but they're making this big shift in a year where they're losing a lot of their offensive line. They only have 1 starter back from last year's offensive line, so that's kind of a big shift. Maybe that's why they're probably going pass heavy instead of running the football. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. Defensively, though, they should be pretty good. They got a defense that's very athletic, very speedy, gets around the field. Jude Lawson, a defensive lineman for them, is going to be a fun one and a name to watch. So I got Cassia Hall, the Commandos, at number 5. At number 4, I got the runners-up from last year, the Patriots, Metro Christian. 3 offensive starters back. That's it. That's a low number. Growing pains probably expected for them offensively. Defensively shouldn't be as bad. They got 6 guys back. Jackson Grimes, a defensive back, who's going to be a fun one to watch, a name to remember. It's a program that's been really good for a while now, Metro Christian. But like I said, just 3 guys back offensively. I imagine that by the middle of the year, October to November, the postseason, offensively it'll be a lot more buttoned up. But at the beginning, there may be some growing pains there. Number 3, I got Verdigris. They're an interesting team. They got some really interesting playmakers on offense. Tyler Willis is a receiver and Ty McKnight a running back. Offensively, they got some guys like those 2 I just mentioned, but overall it's an interesting group. Defensively, their secondary is very experienced. Their D tackles that enter the defensive lines got a lot of potential. So I got Verdigris as kind of being, the next best thing after the top 2. But that's where I would put a gap.
Yes.
I think the top 2 here is pretty clearly defined with Heritage Hall at 1 and Lincoln Christian at 2. Lincoln Christian quarterback Luke Milligan, one of the better ones in 3A. If not, he's in the argument as the best in 3A, certainly in that conversation. Dylan Baldridge is a wide receiver, is a lot of fun. Their defense is very, very athletic. Multiple key players back on their defense from last year's team, so they should be able to start fast on that side of the ball. But I do have Heritage Hall at number 1. The Chargers, again, a defending champ here, but the Chargers, they bring a lot back from championship teams. 7 guys on offense, 6 on defense. Quarterback Andy Bass is an athletic freak. This guy is being looked at. He has offers from OU and Syracuse, but they're not quarterback. They're running back. They're defense. He's a Swiss Army knife type of player. He's a lot of fun to watch, is Andy Bass. So he's going to be one to keep in mind for Heritage Hall. Defensive line should be a big strength for them. So kind of like, Bixby and Carl Albert, Wagner, until I see something to give me a reason not to, I got Heritage Hall.
Got to get the nod. That's right.
Yeah, hard. 3A was tough. These
I understand.
I felt okay about 1, 2, but after that it was like, sheesh. I settled on those 3, but you could talk me into several more, quite frankly.
And players to watch in this category.
Yeah, I mentioned just briefly right there, but Andy Bass for Heritage Hall, he's their quarterback. I know Oklahoma is heavy in on him as a running back. He's going to commit actually a week from tonight. Next Thursday, he announces his commitment. His final 3 is Oklahoma, Syracuse, and Kansas State. And, again, those are all over the place. Syracuse wants him as a quarterback. Kansas State, I think, wants him as a running back. I don't know. Like I said, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife guy. Just get him and then figure it out, kind of what the colleges have decided. Number 16 player in Oklahoma, so he's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm looking forward. They play Millwood coming up in a couple weeks. That's going to be a fun game. Elsewhere, didn't mention him because his team didn't crack the top 5, but Shakota's Elijah Thomas. This kid can play. He's out there in Shakota, which is mainly just known for being Carrie Underwood's hometown. Other than that, I don't know. Not many people talk about Shakota. They got a solid team, but Elijah Thomas is the headliner. Number 5 player in Oklahoma, the number 9 athlete in the country.
Wow.
He is a beast. He's committed to Oklahoma. He's going to play wide receiver at Oklahoma, but he could play defense as well. He kind of goes both ways. He does it all for Shakota. He had big-time offers. Alabama was in there. He had some big offers, so he's a fun one to watch. I hope I get a chance to see him somehow. Shakota's not exactly close, but hopefully it makes sense where I can see him play this year at some point because he's a really good player.
And if you single out a couple of games in 3A, who would they be?
Yeah, 3A games were kind of hard. There wasn't like real obvious ones, but you did have one top 5, at least my personal top 5 matchup with Verdigris playing at Cassia Hall on the 12th of October. That's the teams I had 3 and 5 in our rankings here. I think that's actually a Thursday night game. That's going to be an interesting one. That kind of lets us know a little bit of the hierarchy in 3A a little bit. The other one I went was Sulphur playing at Heritage Hall on the 27th. Sulphur isn't in the top 5, but they're not out of it by that much. They're probably, they're somewhere in that 6, 7, 8 range if I was to rank it out further. And if you were going to nitpick anything with Heritage Hall as far as a weakness, I would say maybe their secondary, and Sulphur's got some really good wide receivers. DeMontre Patterson is one of the better ones in the state, but especially in 3A. So maybe Sulphur can kind of prey on that weakness a little bit there and maybe try to make an upset bid, but not a lot of real obvious top-end games in 3A. So we'll see how that shakes out when the postseason gets around, but a couple of ones to keep in mind there.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, an hour just like gone. We have to go back and watch
Perfect
this.
Timing, really.
Yeah.
5:57.
Because we're going to transfer over to the scrimmage here momentarily on the network. But from 6A1, 6A2, 5A, 4A, 3A, players to watch, games to watch, you can go back and get this as a review if you came in late and watched that. Before we close out, your double duty, you also represent covering the Oklahoma Sooners in your day job. So there is some personnel here you want to take a look at all in one location. You don't have to drive here, there, and everywhere for one day. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of, obviously, Oklahoma, but if you're a fan of good high school football, you should watch this scrimmage. But if you're a fan of Oklahoma and you're wondering why, Carl Albert's got 2 guys committed.
Right.
And then a couple
quarterback
more,
and running back.
A couple more that are targets. I mentioned him earlier, Marcus James and Tristan Haynes. And then Andy Bass is here, who I just talked about with Heritage Hall.
Yes.
Washington is here, defending 2A champs. Their tight end, Nate Roberts, was a Notre Dame commit. He just decommitted earlier this week. And OU is a serious player for him. So if you're an OU fan, just that alone, tune into this scrimmage, watch some guys who are probably going to wear the crimson and cream, definitely in a couple other cases, but possibly in some other ones. There is a lot of talent here. Guys who are going to play D1 as well. MacArthur, obviously, has got some guys who are getting looked at. And overall, this is a very, very talented scrimmage. But, yeah, just off the top of my head there, that's 5, 6 guys who are either have an OU offer or already committed. So it's a loaded field out here.
Well, I want to thank Josh Calloway. I want to thank The Hangout, of course, our sponsor for today. They did our media day. They also did this football preview. This is our 3rd one. So much appreciation for Carl Albert, their hospitality of having us here, and then you watching. And so watch all season long. It starts next week with 8 of our games going to be in action for 0 week on the Oklahoma Sports Network. So you can tune into the Newcastle. You can tune into where I'll be at MacArthur next Thursday on the Oklahoma Sports Network. It's been a pleasure. We're going to send it over to our other crews to have the football preview and scrimmage coming up next on the Oklahoma Sports Network.
Thanks for watching this presentation of the Oklahoma Sports Network.